and welcome back to Simplifinity, where we simplify complex topics like taking a walk in the park. So, as you have already guessed from the title of the video, what we are going to learn today, can you relate that to the picture on your screen? Well, if you cannot do that right now, I promise you'd be able to do that at the end of the video. So, let's get started with requirement analysis. So, what is it actually? If we start with the technical professional terms, then requirement analysis is the process of identifying, gathering, analyzing, and documenting the functional and non-functional needs of stakeholders for a system or software project. It ensures that developers build the right product, one that actually solves the user's problems. Now you may see there are so many, big words like gathering, identifying, analyzing, right? There is identifying, gathering, analyzing, and documenting. So many things, but let's just make it very clear. So let's just keep it small. So let's just see this. If you think your product is like a house, then requirement analysis is the foundation. It's like knowing what you are going to build before you start building it, because that is very much needed. But I believe this before we start with the approach of preaching about the importance of requirement analysis, let us see what happens if we skip requirement analysis. So if we skip requirement analysis, we are going to face some problems. So before I explain the problems, let me tell you a scenario. Let's try to relate to that. You went to a cafe and you want cold coffee. Let's keep it simple, but without ice. Because we all know, right? If they add ice, it's going to be less coffee. So yeah, you're intelligent like me and you order cold coffee without ice. Yeah, and you're waiting. And when you go to collect your order, you see they have added ice in your cold coffee. And you are fuming, of course. So you are angry. That means it's user dissatisfaction. There is rework and cost. So, of course, now if you got the wrong thing, which you didn't order actually, you're of course going to tell them to replace your order and give what you actually wanted. So that is going to make them do some rework because they have to make another coffee now. It's going to be their loss actually. And also it's going to add up to their cost. Like it's the policy somewhere that they have to actually give you the correct order. And if they cannot fulfill that, they have to remake that order. So yes, it makes them do rework and it increases their cost. Then there is project failure, means actually they fail to do what they were intended to. And there is a high chance of miscommunication. There can be a quarrel. There actually, next time you might not even visit that cafe because they broke your trust. That's a very big thing in this world. And then there is scope creep. Now, once you find a flaw in this, you might think that I may add something else too. Like, I want a coffee without ice and without sugar too. So you just added something more in the requirement list because you got the chance to. So scope creep means that you keep adding things into that and it gets into something, the whole product turns into something which it was not intended to be in the first place. And then there is testing problems. So that comes in softwares like actually the whole requirement analysis we are reading about softwares, but just for your better understanding, I just gave you an example of the cafe. Now, if we do not skip that, now let's see what are the objectives, the real thing of requirement analysis. What does it do? It understands what the customer needs, not how to build it. So you are a software developer. And you must not be concerned how to make a management system. You must be concerned what the management system must have according to the client. Because not every business needs the same thing. They want different, they want it customized, and you are going to give it to them. Remove ambiguities, inconsistencies, and conflicts in requirements. Of course, when you are discussing requirements with your client, you are going to be straightforward. And if you cannot do something, you have to admit that. Just like take an example of making a house. That's the easiest one I can give. So you are making a house and you're talking with the planner or the architect, and they are telling, like the client is telling that they want a hanging or a floating house. Can you make that? Of course not. So you have to admit that. And of course, you have to also tell them the alternative of that. So yeah, of course, there is no alternative. So such a vague request like a floating house, that might be done in the future. But let's be real now. You can give, like they want a sofa to be carved out of a stone. So you just suggest that the most feasible one to do it in your budget will be one of wood. So that's right. So establish a clear, agreed upon foundation, which I just talked about for design and development. Then at the end, you're going to create documentation like SRS. So this is about the software requirement specifications where you actually draft all the things that they said and the things that you will be providing. So it's like a written document or proof so that they cannot just argue when the product is done that they wanted something else and you built something else. Now, what a good requirement analysis is, it is it is the result of actually the alignment of both the developer goals and the client goals. The developer wants the application to be feasible, uses the best tech stack, and so on. And the client goals are it must meet the business needs and it should be usable to them, right? So if you combine these two goals, you are going to do a good requirement analysis. Now, requirements are of three types. One is functional, one is non-functional, and one is domain. So we'll be talking about them in detail in the next video, so stay tuned. And if you like this video, please do support our channel, like, share, subscribe, and comment. Share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching.